Hey there, amplifiers. Thanks for tuning in. As we like to connect with other amplifiers in the world who are making an impact. They're using their unique gifts, they're following their true passion, they're serving some sort of higher purpose so that we can make the world a better place. And our guest today is the president and CEO of Foundation Accounting and Consulting. He's a rock star professional who started off by building and designing a landscaping company that did over $1 million landscaping business and pivoted back in 2008 to do some accounting work. I'm curious to know his backstory, and he's got some actual insights that can help you amplify your business. So tune in, and thank you for joining us today, Jeremy Lott, for being the amplifier you are.
Oh, thank you very much.
So it's cool to have you here. It's cool to be talking about something that is a story of transformation from getting started to getting to where you want to go. You now have this great business alchemy process that's helping people transform their business. But let's start off with your backstory and take us back to a time where you were just getting started and facing some of the challenges that typical business owners are facing on a regular basis.
Yeah, so are we talking back to the landscape company or back to the accounting?
We can start, let's start back with the landscaping and hear how the pivot got to the accounting, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, so I went to college on a wrestling scholarship and bounced around in degrees, and I'd been doing landscaping to make my way through college and support my family. And I came across one of my fellow teammates that was doing horticulture as his degree. And I thought, hey, I'm already doing landscaping. This would be great. I could be a highly educated landscaper, which, as I'm sure you know, is absolutely not necessary. So it was kind of a waste of time and money, but I absolutely loved it. And one of the things that I loved about it is that I've discovered I am very much a creative, and horticulture got a lot into design, landscape design. So I graduated with that degree, and I ended up starting a landscape company, and we did high-end residential design build. That was all we focused on. So it was very fulfilling for the creative side of me, and I loved what I was doing. We were flying up to Oregon to pick out huge trees to then bring home and plant by crane. We were doing a ton of blocks, swimming pools, outdoor lighting, water features. I even did a custom commissioned statue for one project. It was so much fun. I absolutely loved it, but I never understood my money. And I always had problems with cash flow. I was always having to take my own money and put it back into the company to cover bills. And as I'm sure other business owners know, once you do that, you never see that money again. It's gone. And so I just really struggled on the money side of things. And then 2008 rolled around. That was a horrible year. Yeah, there you go. Right, uppercut, right to the bottom of the chin there. I ended up bankrupt that year. Yeah, nobody was doing landscape design anymore. And so I just, everything dried up, and I just felt horrible. I felt like the biggest failure on the planet. I wasn't supporting my family. It just, all the bad feelings. And a few months later, I went in to get my taxes prepared, and I'm sitting there with my accountant, and we're chatting about taxes back and forth. He's sitting there across his desk, taking notes on his computer, and we got on the topic of my bankruptcy. And he's typing away at his computer. We got on that topic, and he stopped, and he turned and he looked at me, and he said, "Yeah, I've seen that coming for several years now."
Oh, thanks, bro.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't believe it. I was so mad. And I'm I mentioned, wrestling in college. I'm a very competitive type person. So that kind of led me to, I'm going to show you, I'm going to figure this stuff out and really stick it to you, which makes absolutely no sense. But, that's where my mind went.
Yeah, right. Get angry. What the heck?
Yeah, exactly. So I did some self-study on the bookkeeping process and on QuickBooks. I started up a bookkeeping company. I went back to school. I did all the upper level accounting courses. Then I did my MBA. Then I worked for 4 years doing audit. And the whole time I'm reading all these fantastic books on money and really, really figuring this stuff out. One of the biggest transformations for me that led to where I'm at today was I was sitting in a class and we were talking about how to determine if an investment is good, if you should go forward with an investment, right? And he puts this equation on the board. It's called the internal rate of return. You can look it up. It looks complicated and, deep math and all that. And I was okay with math, so I understood what was going on. But the whole thing is based on, if you have this money, you can either invest in a project or you're going to invest it in the market. And it occurred to me at that time, small business owners, if they have that money sitting around, that's not going in the market. It's just not. So it just makes the whole equation stupid. And I started realizing that we've made accounting really, really complicated. They've put all of the government, meaning the government, has created all these rules around accounting. Yeah, exactly. Those rules are great for the IRS, for banks, for investors, those scenarios, right? You've got to be able to have the same rules for everybody so they can compare financials. But it's really, really complicated for a business owner. There's really no need for that level of detail. And it just doesn't make sense when you're trying to make business decisions to use the numbers like that. So the business alchemy process was born, turning the lead in your business into gold. And I put together from all the stuff I've learned from the different books and from my experiences and from all the mistakes that I'd made and seeing all the solutions to those problems, we put together this process called Business Alchemy, which simplifies accounting, makes it easy to understand, and helps business owners to make better business decisions with numbers that make sense to them rather than the weird stuff that we do as accountants.
That is a beautiful journey that you've shared. And I will give you some hearts just for sharing that story. And recently I was on a podcast, it was the Unbalanced podcast, and shared a similar story of just my first passion being with music, like playing music.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that the numbers part, the business part, and can relate. You're putting money into something and not seeing the return, and you're like, this isn't going to cut the mustard. But I don't know the business part. And a lot of people, when they get into doing their business. So I made the same mistake years later when I got into web design, again, taking the creative skill, the background. I was working for an advertising agency, hit the ceiling, and then said, I kind of want to do it on my own. Jumped out because I knew the skill set of, the trade, right?
The E-Myth, right?
The E-Myth. And then you get out there and you realize you don't know what you don't know. And that continues to happen. So a lot of people still have that challenge. And what I really like about what you've shared and you're putting out there in the world is, all right, so you may have already done that. You may be that entrepreneur that's out there and you're getting used to your world, but then now you need to kind of learn the things you don't know that you don't know. And you've got this business alchemy program that helps people kind of get some clarity on things that is really important to them. And start making better decisions. So what are some of the big mistakes that you're seeing a lot of people making that they don't know that they don't know, that having something like Business Alchemy can have them have an aha and shift.
So first of all is the numbers don't matter. A lot of business owners manage their finances based on the balance
Mm-hmm.
in their banking app. The numbers do matter. They are important. You don't have to get into the nitty-gritty details though. We actually, as part of the program, we use M&Ms to explain accounting.
Oh, cool.
Because yeah, because colors are much easier to understand than numbers are. And so we go through and we look at these different colors for the different categories and how to group them. And then after we've done that, you can always take the numbers and plug them in to substitute for the different colors. And so that's the first thing is we help to simplify and make it so that accounting is about colors rather than numbers. And they taste good.
I
Right?
think that's a great first step. Simplify.
Yes.
A lot of times, and I've been here myself, and some people tuning in might run into the same situation. They open up the numbers, they look at all these numbers, they look at all the historical data. There's too much numbers, it's too much analytics, and they get overwhelmed by it. And they're like, I don't have time for this. I gotta do something else. My accountant, my bookkeeper, my CPA will handle that. Now, here's the thing, as some people might know, they don't always help you with that insight. Just as Jeremy's story shared, sometimes they could just make sure that they're doing what they've been paid to do, right?
Yeah.
It's very common. They're going to handle that service, but they may not be providing the advice or the guidance. And you could end up like Jeremy, where you run into that, oh, I ran into a wall. And they're like, yeah, I saw you're going to do that. Oh my gosh, who's good? What the heck? So step one, simplify. Love it. Very cool. And kudos for having M&Ms integrated. So tell me more. What's the next step?
Yeah. So the next step is when people want to make more money in a business, most people focus on, I've got to cut costs and expenses. Mm-hmm. I like to use the analogy of a pizza. If you have a pizza, there's 8 slices in that pizza and 8 people need to be fed, right? Well, you bought the pizza and you want more pizza than just 1 slice. How do you end up getting more pizza? The first thing people go to is I need to take a little slice out of every other slice and add it to mine. That's the cutting costs mentality. It's a very much a scarcity mentality. There's only this much pizza, and in order for me to get more, I have to cut from everywhere else.
Makes sense.
Well, the better way to look at this scenario is get a bigger pizza. If you get a bigger pizza, everybody gets a bigger slice, right? And so we do the same thing with accounting. Rather than focusing first on cutting costs and expenses, which make very small changes, we focus first on figuring out your pricing. And I work with a lot of contractors, so we focus a lot on estimating, right? But you need to make sure that you are including all the costs that go into it. You have to figure out what your true costs are, and then add your margin on top of that. That way, you're actually making the pizza the right size for you to be able to get as much pizza as you want. And so that's step number 2, is we really focus on pricing and getting your pricing right so that every product you sell, every service you do is profitable for you.
Amen, brother. Because I tell you what, I've run into trying to help some people out myself from the marketing and sales side, and saw the pains and challenges. If you're putting some fuel, you're amplifying something that isn't profitable. That's only going to make the fire bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Let's sell more or less profitable stuff. Okay. Now we're in more
Yeah.
pain. Oh, right. You're working on the wrong problem.
Right.
So yes, got to get your pricing aligned. Got to make sure that you're selling a profitable product. And here, take a slice of. We're talking about food here. A slice of humble pie, because we all, even if we have the knowledge and experience and kind of know what to do, sometimes we can be that person. We can be that person that has the shoemaker with no shoes. And
Yeah.
so take some humble pie, even if you're in the background of accounting or bookkeeping yourself. Sometimes you need to look at your own pricing and make sure it's profitable. Or
Yeah.
you're the contractor that has been in business for some years and you're like, I've grown this business, I've done a good job. Doesn't mean there's not areas to dive in deeper and make sure that holistically things look good. Without taking too much time here, Jeremy, sometimes, maybe this side of the business is really profitable, right? But there's another service that's being offered that's losing profits, and married
Yeah.
together, you couldn't tell the difference, right?
Right. Yeah.
So all right, let's see if we can get number 3. And as a closing thought on this channel, I really like this. I'm hoping it's something to do with some sort of food, because this is really making me hungry. It's being close to lunchtime.
Yeah. So we've got M&Ms and we've got pizza and humble pie. So just to kind of rewind, the business alchemy is 3 phases. Number 1 is fueling your profits. So we talked about understanding accounting and figuring out your pricing. That's phase number 1, fueling your profits, making sure that everything you do is profitable. Phase number 2 is to build your cash flow. It's great to make money. If you aren't protecting your cash flow, you're not going to keep any of it. It's not going to go in your pocket. And that's the whole goal of the business alchemy process, is to put more money in your pocket. And then phase number 3 is scaling without going broke. Believe it or not, most businesses that fail don't fail because they can't find business. They fail because they start doing good and they start getting more and more customers and they start growing and scaling, but they spend all their cash flow. They use up all their cash flow. They're not making money anymore. And that's why you hear so many people say, well, I'm going to go back to being small because that's when I was profitable. Well, you can scale without going broke. You just have to know the process to do it.
Very important. I just got done listening to an audiobook that was talking about like how giants fall. And that was the main thing. It's not that they couldn't find enough work. It's that they tried to do too much, and
Yeah.
they didn't realize it. They got overconfident, and they're like, let's offer all these things and explode our business.
Right.
Once they realized, and a lot of times, if you go too far down the journey, I think they broke it down into different stages. But if you go too far, you can come to the point of no return. But it's not too late for most people. So this is a really great process. And I love the topic, and I love your delivery on sharing it, making it simple and easy. I think that's really important, and it's fun. If people were interested in kind of learning more about you and who you are, what you do in this process of business alchemy, where should they go and what could they do?
So probably the best thing to do would be go to my website at Foundation ACS. That's Alpha Charlie Sierra, stands for Accounting Consulting Services, foundationacs.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I do free 15-minute discovery calls to chat about things, find out where you're at, see how we might be able to help them out.
That is a great thing. And I highly recommend, as always, as a growth amplifier, if any of these areas resonate with you, that you think maybe I need a little help in this area, take that humble pie and eat a bite and realize it never hurts to get a fresh perspective. I know the areas and times that I've grown the most is when I was humble enough to say, hey, I don't know everything. Maybe I could get some fresh insights from someone. Maybe they could show me a blind spot. Maybe they could give me a little assist in an area that I got stagnant or stale in. Help me avoid the scenic route. If you're in that bucket, Jeremy's a great person to have a conversation with, very personable, and he's got some great personality as well.
Thank you so much. Those are very kind words.
And I mean it, man. You're just a breath of fresh air and fun guy to chat and connect with. So really cool stuff. You've given some great nuggets of wisdom. One of the ways we end these shows is, if you would be so kind, is to share one more piece of wisdom that has been impactful to you on your journey. It could be related to anything, doesn't have to be related to money or anything, just something that rises up from this moment that you'd care to share to maybe help someone on theirs.
Yeah, I've got something kind of off the beaten path. It kind of goes along with the humble pie thing. Mental health is super important. I've had a lot of struggles with my own mental health. I've got a son that has a lot of problems, and it was actually my son, seeing my son go through his struggles and then getting help, that finally changed my mindset from, you just got to be tougher, you just got to be more motivated to get out of it, to get some help. It's okay to get help. You're not broken, you're not weak if you get help. That's the bit of advice I'd leave. A lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD, and that can lead to some real serious problems. And so get help. Don't be afraid. It's not weakness.
I love that message. Without bloating into it, I'll just say, on the Unbalanced podcast interview recently, I shared very similar advice. And the thing that blocked me from getting additional help was thinking, I'm this advisor, I'm this coach, I'm this thought leader. I know this stuff more. I guide and help people here. I shouldn't need that help.
Right.
And so it was luckily having some humble pie and realizing that it does take a stronger person to get help. It's more the weakness of thinking that you could do it on your own. It takes strength to admit we're not perfect. We can always amplify. We can always find ways to improve. So very well received message, Jeremy. If you're tuning in, and you feel like maybe you've struggled in an area, take a good step for yourself, get a fresh perspective, get some help. If it's with your mindset or your mental fitness, it's not a sign of weakness to get focus or attention there. Jeremy couldn't have put it better. I'm going to get us wrapped up. Jeremy, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. We highly appreciate you sharing your insights.
Always super fun.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.